Scarlet Hayes had a notebook detailing my movements for the past 3 months. Then she brought me to her mansion. When she flashed a pair of handcuffs, I pulled an identical pair from my own pocket. Funny, I said. I had a similar plan for you. The fatal attraction between two obsessive stalkers turned a kidnapping into a mutual confinement. Don't fight it, she murmured, her teeth grazing my earlobe. We were born to torment each other. 1. The fluorescent lights of the university library always cast a sickly, pale glow, leaving no shadows to hide in. I was hunched in my usual corner, pretending to read, but my gaze was fixed on her. Scarlet Hayes, business school royalty, daughter of some local tech tycoon. Today, she wore a white sundress that made her skin look like porcelain, her dark hair cascading like a waterfall to her waist. Sitting by the window, lost in a book, she was a masterpiece. I licked my lips, my fingers unconsciously tapping out a Morse code rhythm on the worn wooden table. Mine, mine, mine. Whatcha tapping, classmate? A sweet voice, dangerously close, made me nearly jump out of my skin. Scarlet. She'd materialized beside me, head tilted, a predatory glint in her eyes. In nothing, I stammered, my heart hammering against my ribs. She was too close. I could smell the faint, intoxicating scent of roses from her perfume. Scarlet's sudden smile sent a shiver down my spine. Ethan Miller, right? Liberal arts, sophomore. You like the southeast corner of the library. Always here on Wednesday afternoons. She leaned in, her lips practically brushing my ear. I've been watching you for a long time. My mind went blank. How did she know my name? My habits? You know me. My voice was a shaky whisper. Scarlet straightened up, pulling a sleek notebook from her designer bag. She flipped it open to a page and held it out. It was covered in tiny, precise handwriting, detailing my every move, class schedule, favorite food stall at the campus dining hall, even the brand of chips I'd bought at the corner store last week. 3 months ago, she said softly, her finger tracing the script, I decided I was going to have you. I stared at the notebook, my throat constricting. 2. This was insane. But even more insane was the jolt of dark excitement that coursed through me. Because in my own desk drawer, there was a similar notebook, filled with everything about her. Come with me. Scarlet suddenly grabbed my wrist, her grip surprisingly strong. She pulled me through the library, ignoring the startled looks from other students, heading straight for the back exit. Wait, where are you taking me? I tried to pull away, but her fingers were like steel bands. Shoo, she glanced back, her eyes alight with a feverish, unhealthy glow. Don't resist. You wouldn't like me when I'm angry. I should have been terrified. Any normal person would be screaming, running, calling campus security. But I wasn't, because when she looked at me like that, I felt seen, truly seen, for the first time in my life. Scarlet bundled me into the back of a black SUV, murmured an address to the driver, and the locks clicked shut with a chilling finality. Don't worry, she purred, her fingers tracing my cheek. I'll take good care of you. I swallowed hard, a strange realization dawning. I might never go back to my old life. Oddly, the thought didn't fill me with dread, but with a racing pulse. 3. The SUV pulled into the underground garage of a luxurious mansion in what looked like Brookline. Scarlet led me through dimly lit hallways to a spacious bedroom. It was exquisitely furnished, but heavy drapes blocked all outside light. Welcome to your new home, she said with a smile, then abruptly shoved me onto the king-sized bed. At least, until we get married, this is where you'll be staying. Mary, my eyes widened. Are you kidding me? We just had our first real conversation. Scarlet tilted her head, her expression turning dangerous. First conversation? A cold laugh escaped her. You, who follows me every day, snaps candid photos, coincidentally bumps into me at my favorite coffee shop. And now you're telling me this is our first conversation? My blood ran cold. How'd she know all that? I thought I'd been so careful. I don't know what you're talking about. I mumbled, looking away. She sighed, then pulled an envelope from the nightstand drawer. She emptied its contents onto the bed, a pile of photographs. All of them were pictures I'd taken of her, from every conceivable angle. The one on top was a shot from last week, when my own profile was accidentally caught in the frame as I hid behind a tree. You think you're the only one who knows how to follow someone. She cupped my chin, forcing me to look at her. We're the same kind, Ethan. I'm just more honest about it. I stared at her face, inches from mine, and a slow, twisted smile spread across my own. If the mask was off, why bother pretending anymore? Then you should also know, I said, my voice dropping to a low growl as I sat up, that there's a utility knife in the third drawer of my desk. I was planning on using it tonight to slit open your purse and take the hair tie you used today. Scarlett's eyes lit up. She released my chin, her hand moving to stroke my hair. I knew it, she murmured. I knew we were the same. We stared at each other in silence for a few seconds, then burst out laughing. It was absurd. Two pathological stalkers, mutually exposed, finding a strange, exhilarating common ground. 4. So, I said, looking around the opulent room, this whole kidnapping charade was a test, Scarlett said, perching beside me on the bed, her fingers idly twisting the hem of my shirt. I wanted to see if you'd try to run. If you did. She pulled a pair of gleaming scissors from under the pillow. I was going to snip off that little tuft of hair you're always fussing with. I instinctively touched the persistent cowlick on my forehead. It was the part of my hair I was most particular about. She even knew that. I won't run, I said softly, leaning closer, because I also have a pair of scissors. I was planning on cutting a lock of your hair while you slept, as a souvenir. Her eyes shone with an almost manic intensity. She lunged forward, wrapping her arms around me in a hug, so tight it nearly knocked the wind out of me. I knew it. I knew you'd be perfect. Her voice trembled with excitement. Everyone else is so boring. They don't understand this kind of love. I hugged her back, feeling the frantic beat of her heart against my chest. No, they didn't understand. They call it sick, dangerous, something needing therapy. But they couldn't grasp the sheer, unadulterated joy of two equally twisted souls finally finding recognition. Hungry, Scarlett suddenly pulled away, hopping off the bed. I had the kitchen prepared dinner. Of course, she winked, a sly look on her face. If you even think about escaping, I'll drug your food and make sure you can never leave me. Sounds fair, I said, standing up and smoothing my wrinkled clothes. But I should warn you, I've already brainstormed at least 5 ways to slip something into your drink. Scarlett burst into delighted laughter, clear and sharp as a bell. She took my hand and led me towards the dining room. We really are a match made in hell. 5. Dinner was far more lavish than I'd expected. A long mahogany table was laden with exquisite dishes, candlelight flickering off polished silver. Scarlett insisted on feeding me every bite. If I tried to pick up my own fork, she'd gently tap my fingers with hers. Prisoners don't get to feed themselves, she said, her expression serious, then suddenly broke into a grin. Unless you promise never to leave me. That depends on your cooking, I said, opening my mouth for the piece of steak she offered. If it's terrible, I might consider an escape attempt. Scarlett's eyes narrowed, and she suddenly pinched my cheek. You wouldn't dare. Her voice was a low, dangerous purr. I caught her wrist, meeting her gaze directly. Try me. We held the pose for a beat, a silent battle of wills, then both broke into laughter again. This dangerous, exhilarating dance was intoxicating for both of us. After dinner, Scarlett gave me a tour of the mansion. Every room was breathtakingly opulent, but what caught my attention most was the basement. One section had been converted into what looked disturbingly like a cell. Iron bars, heavy chains, the works. This was originally for you. If you were disobedient, Scarlett said, leaning against the bars, her head tilted as she studied me. But it seems we might not need it after all. I stepped into the cell, running my hand over the cold iron links. What a shame, I sighed dramatically. I was actually looking forward to being chained up. Scarlett raised an eyebrow, then, to my surprise, pulled a pair of handcuffs from her pocket. It's not too late, she said, dangling them. Want to try them on? I extended my hands, feigning a look of martyred resignation. Be gentle, she giggled, snapping the cuffs onto my wrists, then pulled me down to sit beside her on the narrow cot inside the cell. You know, she said, leaning her head on my shoulder, my original plan was to keep you locked up for at least a month until you fell in love with me. And now, I turned to look at her, our faces inches apart. Now, her breath ghosted over my lips. I've decided to imprison you in a different way. She kissed me. It was a kiss that was both tender and demanding, as full of contradictions as she was. I responded, the handcuffs clinking softly behind my back. 6. When we finally broke apart, Scarlett's cheeks were flushed. "Well," she asked, a little breathless, "do you like this method of imprisonment?" "It's acceptable," I said, try to sound nonchalant despite my heart pounding like a drum solo. "Though these cuffs are a bit tight. Could you loosen them?" Scarlett laughed, undoing the handcuffs, only to suddenly push me flat on the cot and straddle my waist. "Nope." She leaned down, her long hair brushing my face. "Prisoners don't get to negotiate terms." I grabbed her wrists and with a swift move, reversed our positions. "Who says I'm the prisoner?" I murmured, my voice low. "Maybe you're the one who's trapped, Scarlett." Her eyes sparkled with excitement. "Oh," she challenged, "and how exactly are you going to imprison me?" I leaned down and kissed the tip of her nose. "With love, you psycho." She blinked, then burst into a fit of laughter. "That's so corny," she gasped, playfully swatting my chest. "I thought you were going to say something much more terrifying." I caught her flailing hands, my expression turning serious. "Scarlett, I mean it. I'm not going to run. Not because I'm scared of your scissors or your handcuffs, but because—" I paused, searching for the right words. "Because I finally found someone who actually gets me." 7. Scarlett's smile softened, her hand coming up to gently cup my cheek. "Me too," she whispered. "My methods are extreme, I know, but I was just so afraid of losing you, even before I truly had you." We held each other quietly for a moment, listening to the rhythm of our hearts. In the midst of this absurd kidnapping, we'd found the most genuine connection either of us had ever known. So, I finally broke the silence. "What are we now?" "Kidnapper and hostage." Scarlett thought for a moment. Then a brilliant smile lit up her face. "No, we're mutually imprisoned." She kissed my forehead. "You've imprisoned my heart, and I've imprisoned your body. Fair's fair, right?" I couldn't help but laugh. "Sounds like some kind of twisted symbiotic relationship." "It is," she stated, matter-of-factly, then jumped off the bed as if remembering something. "Oh, I forgot to show you the most important part." She dragged me back upstairs to her bedroom. From her nightstand, she carefully retrieved an elegant velvet box. Inside, nestled on satin, were a pair of sleek silver bracelets. "I was going to use these if you really tried to resist," she admitted, a little sheepishly. "But now," she handed one to me. "I thought we could wear them together." I took the bracelet. Engraved on the inside, in delicate script, were the words, "Property of Scarlett." "I have one too." She showed me hers, which read, "Property of Ethan." This way, even if we're apart, we'll remember who we belong to. I fastened the bracelet onto my wrist. The cool metal against my skin felt strangely comforting. "You know," I said softly, "I originally planned, if you rejected me, to lock you in the storage room of my apartment. I don't actually have a basement." Scarlett's eyes widened in delighted surprise. "Really? You're going to do that? Did you soundproof it?" No basement, remember?" I confessed, a bit awkwardly. "But I did seriously research how to reinforce a closet door." She threw her arms around me, her body shaking with laughter. "We are so perfect for each other." 8. Later that night, we lay side by side in her enormous bed, the silver bracelets gleaming faintly in the moonlight filtering through a gap in the curtains. "So," I turned on my side to face her, "am I still allowed to go to classes tomorrow? Or am I officially a captive?" Scarlett considered this. "Theoretically, you're imprisoned," she said gravely. "But practically, we could go to school together, and then come back here together. Of course," she added, "I'll be holding your hand the entire time to make sure you don't escape." "Sounds suspiciously like a normal date," I pointed out. "It is not," she retorted, pouting adorably. "It's guardianship. It's surveillance. It's love," I ventured. Scarlett went quiet, burying her face in my chest. "Yeah," she mumbled. I smiled, pulling her closer, and pressed a kiss to the top of her head. "Good night, my kidnapper." "Good night, my hostage," she mumbled back, but I knew she was smiling. 9. When the first rays of morning sunlight pierced through the curtains, I found myself securely trapped in a warm embrace. Scarlett's arms were wrapped around me like possessive vines, one leg thrown imperiously over my waist, as if even in sleep she was ensuring my captivity. I shifted slightly, trying to reposition myself without waking her. The moment I moved an inch, the arms around me tightened like a vice. "Tried to escape?" Scarlett's voice was husky with sleep, but still laced with a playful threat. She blinked her eyes half open, a dangerous little smile playing on her lips. Just need the bathroom, I answered honestly. She stared at me for a few seconds, apparently assessing the truth of my statement, then suddenly nipped my neck. 5 minutes, she released me, holding up 5 fingers. Any longer, and I'm coming to find you. I rubbed the spot she'd bitten. It would definitely leave a mark. Don't trust me much, do you? Scarlett sat up, her dark hair tumbling messily over her white silk pajamas, looking like a fallen angel. Trust is earned, she purred, leaning towards me, her fingers lightly tracing my collarbone. Besides, I like seeing you were my mark. I glanced down at the burgeoning love bite on my neck and chuckled. Possessive much, princess? Takes one to know one. She poked my chest. Don't think I don't know you snuck a few kisses and took pictures of me while I was asleep last night. My face instantly burned. How did she know? I was sure she'd been dead to the world. Scarlett grinned triumphantly, retrieving my phone from under her pillow and waggling it. Password's my birthday, plus my initials. Cute. She unlocked it, displaying the photos I'd surreptitiously taken. Just remember to turn off the flash next time. Amateur. I lunged for the phone, but she dodged expertly, scrambling off the bed to the other side of the room. Beg me, she taunted, phone held aloft. Maybe I'll delete them. Go ahead and delete them, I said, getting out of bed slowly and advancing on her. They're already backed up to the cloud. 10. Scarlett's expression instantly hardened. You. She narrowed her eyes. It seems I'll have to confiscate all your electronic devices. I stalked closer, backing her into a corner. Try it. I whispered, our faces inches apart. Let's see who's really imprisoning whom. We were so close I could feel her breath, see the flecks of gold in her amber eyes in the morning light. My own reflection stared back at me from their depths, a mirror image, wearing the same crazed smile. Time's up, she said suddenly. What? 5 minutes. She gestured to the ornate clock on the wall. You said you were going to the bathroom. I realized I'd completely forgotten my original mission, too caught up in our little power play. Just as I was about to retort, my stomach let out an embarrassingly loud gurgle. Scarlett burst out laughing, shoving my phone back into my hand. Go on, go on. She pushed me towards the en-suite bathroom. But remember, her voice dropped to a husky whisper. You're mine. Forever. 11. I looked back at her, seeing that familiar, pathological possessiveness flare in her eyes. A normal person would be running for the hills. I just felt my heart beat faster. I know, I replied softly, just like you're mine. The answer seemed to satisfy her. She released me with a playful swat on my rear as a dismissal. When I came out of the bathroom, Scarlett was already dressed, a crisp white blouse, a navy pleated skirt, and a crimson ribbon tied neatly at her collar. She stood before a full-length mirror, adjusting her hair. Hearing my footsteps, she spoke without turning. Your clothes are in the closet, left side. I got your size. I opened the indicated closet door. Sure enough, a set of clothes identical to my usual campus attire. Jeans and a plain shirt, though of much higher quality than I owned, hung neatly, complete with new sneakers and socks. The attention to detail sent a shiver through me. She even knew my shoe size. You certainly did your research. I took out the clothes and began to change. Scarlett finally turned, a tie in her hand, a tie for the private school uniform her clothes emulated, not my usual style. Come here, she beckoned with a finger. Let me. I walked over, allowing her to loop the tie around my neck. Her fingers moved deftly, occasionally brushing against my skin, sending little jolts through me. We're going to school together today, she announced, tightening the knot. I'll hold your hand the whole way, sit next to you in class, have lunch with you. She cinched the tie, forcing me to meet her gaze. Everyone is going to know you belong to me. Sounds like a public declaration, I said, half joking, though a thrill of possessive pride echoed her own. Scarlett gave the tie a sharp tug, pulling my face closer to hers. Don't like it. Love it, I admitted honestly. 12. She released the tie, patting my chest with satisfaction. Good boy. She grabbed her backpack. Let's go. The driver's waiting. As we walked downstairs, I noticed the household staff casting curious, furtive glances our way, though none dared to speak. Scarlett, oblivious or indifferent, held my hand tightly, fingers intertwined, a clear statement of ownership. Your family, Dad's overseas on business. Mom. A shadow flickered across her face. She's gone. So, for now, I make the rules in this house. I didn't press further, just squeezed her hand. She glanced at me, a flicker of gratitude in her eyes. When the car neared the university, Scarlett suddenly told the driver to stop a block away from the main gate. We'll walk the rest of the way, she explained. I want more people to see us together. I couldn't help but smile. You're really something else. What? She arched an eyebrow. Perfect, I said softly. A faint blush colored her cheeks, but she quickly composed herself into her usual haughty demeanor. Flattery will get you nowhere right now. She tilted her chin. You are to cooperate fully with me today. Yes, ma'am. 13. The moment we stepped out of the car, Scarlett latched onto my hand, practically dragging me towards the campus. It was early, but plenty of students were already milling about. Our appearance immediately drew a flurry of stares and hushed whispers. Isn't that Scarlett Hayes from the B School? Is she actually holding hands with the guy? Who is that guy? I've never seen them together. Oh my God, Scarlett Hayes is smiling. I thought she was a total ice queen. Hearing the murmurs, I felt a little self-conscious and tried to subtly withdraw my hand, but Scarlett only tightened her grip. Ignore them, she muttered. They're just jealous. Jealous of what? Jealous that I have you. She turned to me, her eyes gleaming with that dangerous light. And jealous that you have me. Her words sent a warmth spreading through my chest. And why wouldn't they be? Who wouldn't want a girl like Scarlett? Beautiful, brilliant, wealthy, a little unhinged. Maybe, but for me, that was part of the appeal. When we reached the fork in the path that led to the arts quad on one side and the business school on the other, I assumed she'd let go. Our classes were in different buildings. But she showed no sign of releasing me, steering me firmly towards the arts quad. Wait, I stopped. Aren't your classes in the B school building? I'm sitting in on your classes today, she stated, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. I had my assistant inform your professors I'd be auditing. My eyes widened. You're serious? Do I look like I'm joking? She tilted her head, her expression terrifyingly earnest. No, but isn't this a little? A little what? She pressed, taking a step closer. A little. Obvious. We only officially met yesterday, and now we're inseparable. 14. Scarlett's expression darkened instantly. You don't want people to know about us. Her voice was barely a whisper, but each word cut like a razor. No, I just what? She advanced again, forcing me to back up until my shoulders hit the rough bark of an oak tree. You think I'm embarrassing? That being with me is something to hide. Students passing by were starting to stare openly, but I barely registered them. Scarlett's eyes were blazing, and I knew if I didn't say the right thing, there would be hell to pay. I just don't want to share you. I blurted out, inspiration striking. You're so dazzling. If everyone sees you, more people will want you. I don't want that. The answer clearly caught her off guard. Her expression shifted from fury to surprise, then to a strange, pleased satisfaction. Idiot, she murmured, her hand, which had been gripping my collar, now gently caressed my cheek. I only want you. The rest of them. She swept her gaze over the gawking onlookers, her voice rising slightly. They aren't worth a single strand of your hair. A collective gasp went through the nearby students. Scarlett was notorious for her aloofness, barely acknowledging anyone outside her elite circle. This public declaration was tantamount to a royal decree. Satisfied, she whispered to me, a triumphant smirk on her lips. I nodded, a mixture of embarrassment and a strange, possessive sweetness flooding through me. Scarlett then resumed her grip on my hand and pulled me towards the lecture hall, leaving a trail of stunned silence and frantic whispering in our wake. Inside, Scarlett insisted on sitting next to me, a seat that technically belonged to my friend Kevin. When Kevin walked in and saw the scene, his jaw nearly hit the floor. Ethan, this is, he asked cautiously. My girlfriend, Scarlett announced before I could speak. This seat is mine from now on. Please find somewhere else. Kevin stared at me, dumbfounded. I could only offer an apologetic grimace. She's a little possessive. I can see that, Kevin muttered, wisely retreating to a seat further away. Throughout the entire lecture, Scarlett kept my hand locked in hers, occasionally doodling hearts on my notebook or scrawling "Property is Scarlet" in the margins. When the professor made an interesting point, she'd lean in to whisper her own observations, her warm breath tickling my ear, making it impossible to concentrate. During the break, I finally got a chance to whisper, "Don't you get tired?" Staring at me like this all the time. Exhausted, she admitted freely, her fingers twirling a lock of my hair. "But I'm more afraid that if I blink, you'll disappear." Her words clutched at my heart. I took her hand, my gaze serious. "I won't disappear." "Prove it," she said suddenly. "Ow." She thought for a moment, her eyes lighting up. "At lunch, I feed you. You're not allowed to touch your own utensils." "What kind of proof is?" "And it has to be in front of everyone in the dining hall," she added, her eyes sparkling. I sighed, knowing it was useless to argue. "Fine, but you have to promise to go to your own classes this afternoon." "Deal," she agreed readily. Then, catching me off guard, planted a quick kiss on my cheek, eliciting a fresh round of whoops and catcalls from nearby students. At lunchtime, Scarlett made good on her promise. In the crowded university dining hall, she insisted on feeding me every single morsel. If I even twitched toward my fork, she'd wrap my knuckles with her own. "Open up," she said, holding a piece of chicken to my lips. "Ah!" I glanced around, mortified. Several tables were openly snickering or pointing. Scarlett, however, was completely unfazed. "Scarlett, everyone's watching." I protested quietly. "So?" She raised an eyebrow. "Let them watch." Or her voice took on that dangerous edge again. "Are you saying you don't want people to know your mind?" "No, but..." "Then eat." She nudged the chicken closer. I sighed and opened my mouth, accepting the offering. Scarlett beamed victoriously. "Good boy," she cooed, patting my head like I was a prize pet. This public display of whatever this was made my face burn, but deep down, a perverse part of me reveled in it. Scarlett's possessiveness was twisted, extreme, but it was undeniably her way of showing affection. And the fact that I not only accepted it, but found a strange happiness in it, probably meant I wasn't exactly a paragon of normalcy myself. "Your turn," Scarlett said suddenly. "Feed me." I blinked, then understood. I picked up her fork, speared a piece of broccoli, and held it to her lips. "Your Highness." Scarlett accepted it with a satisfied smirk, deliberately licking her lips as she chewed. "Delicious," she said, her gaze full of meaning. "But not as delicious as you." I nearly choked on my own saliva. Scarlett threw her head back and laughed, drawing even more attention. 17. After lunch, Scarlett, true to her word, headed off to her business classes, but not before issuing a stern directive. I was to meet her outside her lecture hall the second her class ended. 1 minute late, she threatened, her lips close to my ear, "And you're sleeping in the basement tonight." "Chain." "Yes, ma'am," I said with a grin, watching her go. Then I headed for the library. I needed some quiet time to process everything. I'd barely settled into my corner when my phone buzzed. A text from Scarlett. "What are you doing?" "Library." "You? Aren't you in class?" I typed back. "Bored. Miss you. Focus on your lecture." "No. Send me a selfie." "Now." "Yes. Now. Or I'm ditching class and coming to find you." I sighed, exasperated but also secretly pleased. I quickly snapped a discreet selfie and sent it. A few seconds later, her reply, "Not good enough. Need to see my mark." It took me a moment to realize she meant the bite mark from that morning. I angled my phone, made sure the reddish-purple mark on my neck was visible, and sent another. "Perfect. My brand looks good on you. Focus. KK. Don't be late picking me up." I smiled, putting my phone away, but found it impossible to concentrate on my books. My mind was filled with images of Scarlett. Her anger, her triumph, her jealousy. Every expression so vivid, so captivating. At 3:50 p.m., I was standing faithfully outside the business school building. The bell rang, and students began to pour out, but Scarlett was nowhere to be seen. Just as I was starting to worry, my phone buzzed. "Back entrance. Now." I hurried around the building. Scarlett was there, alone, a wide smile spreading across her face when she saw me. "Right on time," she said, linking her arm through mine. "You get a reward." She stood on her tiptoes and gave me a quick, sweet peck on the lips before pulling me toward the campus exit. "How was your day?" she asked. "Eventful," I said honestly. I never thought I'd become the campus celebrity quite like this. Scarlett grinned, pleased. Good. Now everyone knows you're mine. She squeezed my hand. No one else will try to make a move on you. No one was trying to make a move on me before. That girl from the Lit Club slipped you a note last week, Scarlett stated calmly. And that try-hard from your ethics study group always tries to partner with you for assignments. I stared at her, astounded. How do you even know that? I told you, she squeezed my fingers. I've been watching you for a long, long time. The realization was both unnerving and deeply moving. All this time, when I thought I was the observer, Scarlett had been observing me just as intensely. And do you know I turned them all down? I asked softly. I do. She leaned her head against my shoulder. That's why I decided to give you a chance. A chance? A chance to be mine. She looked up at me, her eyes filled with that consuming possessiveness, and something deeper, something that might even be love. 18. I couldn't help it. I stopped, cupped her face in my hands, and kissed her. This kiss was different from the others. Deeper, more desperate. Scarlett stiffened in surprise for a second, then melted against me, responding with an equal fervor. When we finally broke apart, both of us were breathless. What? What was that? Scarlett asked, her cheeks flushed, her eyes dazed. Proof, I said, smiling as I wiped a smudge of her lipstick from my own lips. Proof of how much I like being yours. Scarlett's eyes lit up. She grabbed my hand and started running toward the campus gate. Hurry, she called back, her smile radiant. Let's go home, and you can give me more proof. We ran, hand in hand, under the setting sun like any two students deliriously in love. Except our brand of love was unique. But who cared? We'd found each other. That was all that mattered. Halfway across the main quad, Scarlett suddenly let go of my hand and darted behind a large oak tree. Come and get me, she yelled provocatively, then took off running. It took me a second to realize this was a new game. I immediately gave chase. You'll be sorry if I catch you, I shouted back. Scarlett's laughter, like silver bells, echoed across the campus. Try me. We dodged around students and navigated familiar pathways, a blur of motion and laughter, drawing curious stares. I finally caught her under a canopy of flowering cherry trees, the momentum sending us both tumbling onto the soft grass. Gotcha, I panted, pinning her beneath me. You're my prisoner now. Scarlett's eyes, bright as stars in the twilight, gazed up at me. Always was, she whispered, then reached up and pulled my head down for another kiss. Always will be. 19. The first rainy day after the cherry blossoms faded, our carefully constructed bubble of normalcy shattered. That afternoon, Scarlett and I were curled up in her state-of-the-art home theater, rewatching Lyon. The professional, she claimed it was the template for our love story, just with the roles reversed. Just as Matilda tearfully confessed her love to Lyon, Scarlett's phone buzzed. She glanced at it, annoyed, then her entire body went rigid. What's wrong? I squeezed her hand. It was ice cold. Dad, her voice trembled. He's back early. His flight lands in an hour. The gravity of the situation hit me immediately. Scarlett's father, the formidable head of Hayes Corporation, a man known for his iron will in the business world, had absolutely no idea his daughter had been imprisoning a fellow student in their home for the past month. I should go, I said, starting to get up, ready to pack my few belongings from the guest room I'd technically been assigned but rarely used. Scarlett grabbed my wrist, her grip like a vice. No, her eyes in the dim theater light held a dangerous, familiar gleam. You're not going anywhere. But your father... I don't care. She pulled me back down onto the plush sofa, straddling my lap, her hands framing my face. You're mine, remember? The bracelets are proof. I touched the silver band on my wrist, property of Scarlett. Over the past month, it had become as much a part of me as Scarlett herself. I just don't want to make things difficult for you, I said softly, my hands instinctively going to her waist. We can temporarily. No, she cut me off, her forehead pressed against mine. We're not hiding. I'm going to tell Dad that you're the one I've chosen. Her unwavering resolve sent a warmth through me, but a more rational part of my brain knew it wouldn't be that simple. Scarlett, do you really think your father will accept an ordinary college student as his daughter's boyfriend? She suddenly grinned, a flash of the dangerously alluring girl I'd first met. Who said you were an ordinary college student? She tapped my nose. Ethan Miller, sole heir to Miller Technologies. This time was my turn to freeze. You knew. Scarlett rolled her eyes. Ethan, please. Why do you think I picked you? Besides our unique compatibility, did you really think I wouldn't do a thorough background check? I was speechless. I deliberately kept my family background quiet, enrolling as a regular student to avoid special treatment. Clearly, Scarlett's intelligence network was far more extensive than I'd imagined. 20. So, she hopped off my lap, pulling me to my feet. We're going to face my father. Openly. Unless. Her eyes suddenly took on a vulnerable sheen. You don't want to take responsibility for me? Seeing her feigned composure, the slight tremble of her lips, all my reservations evaporated. I stood up and pulled her into a tight embrace. Of course I do, I murmured, kissing the top of her head. I'm just worried your father will give you a hard time. Scarlett relaxed in my arms. He won't, she said, her voice muffled against my chest. He's always given me whatever I wanted. And this time, what if he doesn't approve? I asked cautiously. She tilted her head back, her eyes shining with that familiar, obsessive glint. Then I'll elope with you, she declared, her tone absolute. You've got enough money to support me, after all. I couldn't help but laugh, earning a light, indignant punch on the arm. I'm serious, she huffed. I know. I cupped her face, my expression serious. If it really comes to that, I'll take you away. But first, I took a deep breath. Let's try to get your father's blessing, okay? Scarlett stared at me for a long moment, then nodded. Fine, but if he says one nasty thing about you, we leave. Immediately. Deal. I smiled, kissing the tip of her nose. 21. An hour later, we stood at the grand entrance of the mansion, waiting for Mr. Hayes' car. The rain had stopped, but the air was still heavy with moisture. Scarlett gripped my hand so tightly her nails dug into my palm. Nervous? I whispered. Not at all, she said, a little too quickly, though the tremor in her fingers betrayed her. It's just, Dad always hoped I'd find someone from a similar background, someone who could benefit the family business. Aren't we? Of course we are, she frowned. But he doesn't know that you know. Ugh, just let me do the talking, okay? Before I could respond, a sleek black Rolls-Royce glided silently into the courtyard. A chauffeur opened the door, and a tall, powerfully built man in his late 50s emerged. Even after a long flight, Mr. Hayes was impeccably dressed in a tailored suit, exuding an aura of quiet authority. Dad! Scarlett dropped my hand and ran to embrace him. Scarlett, pumpkin, Mr. Hayes' stern features softened upon seeing her, but his gaze sharpened instantly when he saw me standing in the doorway. And who is this? Scarlett took a deep breath, turned, and extended her hand towards me. I walked over, took it, and stood beside her. Dad, this is Ethan Miller, my boyfriend. Boyfriend, Mr. Hayes looked me up and down, his eyes like x-rays, seeming to peel away any pretense. Since when? 22. About a month ago, Scarlett said, her chin held high. He's been staying here. Mr. Hayes' eyebrows nearly shot into his hairline. Staying here. His voice rose a notch. You two have been. Dad. Scarlett's face flushed crimson. It's not what you think. We have separate rooms. This explanation clearly didn't mollify him. He gave me another cold, appraising look, then said to Scarlett, let's talk inside. The atmosphere in the formal living room was so thick you could cut it with a knife. Mr. Hayes sat in a large armchair, while Scarlett and I sat opposite him on a sofa, our hands still tightly clasped. The servants had discreetly vanished. Ethan, Mr. Hayes finally spoke, his voice deep and resonant. I've had my people look into you. Liberal arts major, sophomore, average grades, seemingly modest background. Tell me, what makes you think you're qualified to be with my daughter? I opened my mouth to speak, but Scarlett jumped in. Dad, you can't just. Scarlett, Mr. Hayes cut her off, his gaze fixed on me. I'm speaking to him. I squeezed Scarlett's hand, signaling her to let me handle it. Mr. Hayes, I began, trying to keep my voice steady. I understand your concerns. But Scarlett and I genuinely care for each other. Care? Mr. Hayes scoffed. Young man, caring doesn't pay the bills. Do you have any idea the kind of life Scarlett is accustomed to? A single one of her dresses probably costs more than your entire monthly allowance. The words stung, not for their insult, but but for how little they revealed, he truly understood his daughter. I felt Scarlett's hand go rigid in mine. Dad! Her voice was laced with tears. How can you say that? Ethan is... Mr. Hayes, I interrupted Scarlett again, deciding it was time to lay my cards on the table. You're right. As an ordinary student, I probably don't deserve Scarlett. But I took a deep breath. What if I told you I was Ethan Miller, son of Robert Miller of Miller Technologies? 23. A profound silence descended on the room. Mr. Hayes' expression shifted from disdain to shock, then to thoughtful appraisal. Scarlett whipped her head around to look at me, a triumphant gleam in her eyes. Robert Miller. Mr. Hayes said slowly. The Robert Miller who's been making waves in AI and biotech with Miller Technologies. I nodded. My father wanted me to understand the business from the ground up, so he had me enroll under less obvious circumstances. But if you require confirmation, I pulled my Amex Centurion card from my wallet and placed down the polished coffee table. This should suffice. Mr. Hayes picked up the black card, examined it closely, his expression gradually softening. Why wasn't this mentioned sooner? His tone was less hostile now. Because I wanted Scarlett to like me for who I am, not for my family's name. I glanced at Scarlett and saw her watching me with a new intensity, her eyes filled with pride and an overwhelming affection. Mr. Hayes mulled this over for a moment, then sighed. Even so, you've only known each other a month. Isn't this all a bit precipitous? This time, Scarlett didn't stay silent. Dad. Her voice was firm, unwavering. When you met Mom, how long did it take for you to know she was the one? A flicker of pain, then tenderness, crossed Mr. Hayes' face. 3 days, he admitted softly. But that was different. It's not different. Scarlett stood up, walked over to her father, and knelt beside his chair, taking his hand. I love Ethan, Dad, the same way you love Mom. That feeling you get when you just know. I watched them, a warmth spreading through me. The ice in Mr. Hayes' eyes was finally beginning to thaw. He stroked his daughter's hair, then looked at me. Ethan, can you promise me you'll always take care of Scarlett? Protect her. She's been very lonely since her mother passed. I rose and walked over to stand beside Scarlett, meeting Mr. Hayes' gaze directly. I can, sir, and I will, I said solemnly. And I'll also embrace all of her unique quirks. Mr. Hayes raised an eyebrow. Unique quirks? Like her penchant for collecting my photos and personal items, I said with a slight smile. Or occasionally handcuffing me to the bed. Scarlett jabbed me sharply in the ribs, her face flaming red. But, to my utter surprise, Mr. Hayes chuckled. Ah, I see, he shook his head. Scarlett always did have a rather intense focus. When she was 5, she lost her favorite doll. Searched for it for a solid month until I found it in the recycling bin. Dad, Scarlett protested, mortified. Mr. Hayes smiled, patting her head. All right, I understand. You two are serious. He stood up and extended his hand to me. Ethan, welcome to the family. I shook his hand, feeling a wave of relief and a silent acknowledgement. Thank you, sir. Mr. Hayes glanced at his watch. I have a video conference in 10 minutes, he said. We'll discuss potential collaborations over dinner. He gave me a knowing look. Miller and Hayes, working together. That could be very interesting indeed. 24. As soon as he left the room, Scarlett launched herself at me, tackling me onto the plush Persian rug. You were amazing, she cried, planting kisses all over my face. I knew Dad would like you. I laughed, wrapping my arms around her waist. So, no elopement necessary. Not for now, she winked slyly, though the idea still sounds pretty exciting. I rolled us over so I was on top, gently nipping her nose. Princess, your little imprisonment game nearly escalated into a full-blown family merger. Scarlett giggled, her arms looping around my neck. Worth it, she whispered. For you, anything is worth it. We smiled at each other, then, as naturally as breathing, our lips met. The kiss was softer this time, deeper, filled with an unspoken tenderness that transcended all our previous games. When we finally pulled apart, there were tears glistening in Scarlett's eyes. What's wrong? I gently wiped them away. Nothing. She shook her head. It's just, I've never felt this happy before. I used to always be so afraid of losing things. That's why I was so extreme. I understood. That desperate fear of losing someone you cherished, I knew it well. Me too, I confessed quietly. My desk drawer has an entire notebook filled with observations about you. And that disposable coffee cup you used 3 months ago. I still have it. 25. Scarlett's eyes widened in surprise. Then she burst out laughing. We're completely hopeless. Yeah, I chuckled, kissing her forehead. But we found each other. And that's all that matters. Over dinner, Mr. Hayes, now more relaxed and affable, questioned me extensively about my family, my studies, and my future ambitions. When I mentioned my father's intention for me to eventually head the AI division at Miller Technologies, his eyes lit up. Excellent. Hayes Corporation is looking to significantly upgrade our digital infrastructure, he said, glancing at Scarlett. Perhaps Scarlett could spearhead that project. It would be a good first major assignment for her within the company. Scarlett's face glowed with excitement, and she squeezed my hand under the table. We could work together. Looking at her radiant smile, I realized our future was no longer a hazy, obsessive fantasy, but a tangible reality taking shape. We had compatible backgrounds, complementary skills, and that profoundly intense, if unconventional, connection that few could understand. That night, Scarlett didn't even pretend to suggest I sleep in the guest room. She pulled me into her own sprawling suite in her bed. We lay tangled together, no games, no pretenses, just the pure, unadulterated comfort of each other's presence. Ethan, Scarlett murmured in the darkness. Do you remember what I said when we first officially met in the library? Which part? You said a lot of terrifying things, I teased, earning a soft punch. I said, we're the same kind, she whispered. But I think I was wrong. My heart tightened. What do you mean? She propped herself up on an elbow, gazing down at me in the faint moonlight. You're not the same kind as me, she said softly, her voice full of a new tenderness. You're better. You taught me how to trust, how to love instead of just possess. Her words made my throat ache. I reached up to stroke her cheek, feeling the incredible softness of her skin. Scarlett, we both grew. You taught me just as much. She sighed a contented sound and snuggled back down against me. Next week, she said suddenly, I want to meet your parents. Officially, I'll wear something respectable. Bring a gift. I smiled. They'll love you, and if they don't, a hint of her old insecurity crept into her voice. Then I'm eloping with you. I mimicked her earlier tone. You've got enough money to support me, after all. Scarlett giggled, nipping my shoulder playfully. It's a date. 26. Time flew. Before we knew it, 2 years had passed since graduation. Scarlett's digital transformation project at Hayes Corporation was a roaring success, and the AI systems I developed had brought significant advancements to her family's company, fostering a strong partnership with Miller Technologies. Our parents were thrilled, already dropping not-so-subtle hints about wedding dates. But for us, more important than any professional achievement was the quiet comfort of coming home to each other every day, to the sanctuary where we could shed all masks and be our truest, most beautifully flawed selves. Sometimes Scarlett would still, out of the blue, handcuff me to the bedpost, her eyes alight with that familiar possessive fire, threatening to keep me her prisoner forever. And I would play along, feigning delightful terror, reveling in her uniquely consuming brand of affection. The difference was, now we both knew it was just a game, a loving ritual, because we had already, with invisible, unbreakable bonds, truly and eternally imprisoned each other's souls. 27. On a bright, sun-drenched afternoon, in the very same corner of the university library where she had first confronted me, I got down on one knee and asked Scarlett Hayes to marry me. Tears streaming down her face, she choked out a yes, and then immediately produced a pair of handcuffs from her purse, snapping one cuff on her wrist and the other onto mine. Just in case you change your mind, she said, her eyes still red, but a brilliant, possessive smile playing on her lips. Never, I whispered, kissing away her tears, the cool metal a familiar link between us. Because from the first moment I saw you, I knew. You were mine, she finished for me, her voice thick with emotion, just as she had so many times before. And this time, looking into her shining, adoring eyes, we both knew no further proof was needed. The silver bracelets had long been replaced by an engagement ring, but the obsessive, all-consuming love they represented was more permanent, more binding than any metal could ever be.